Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. It's week 16, and we have our Sunday games to go through after a couple Saturday games and Thursday night. And there's no major updates to the tool, but I do expect to get to more over the next couple weeks. So if you want to see what updates come out, go ahead and give a subscribe so you can follow along. But other than that, let's get into our game data. For our next matchup, we have Pittsburgh in Detroit, where Detroit is favored on the money line with a spread of 7 points and a total line of 52.5. Here's your team averages. And going through the rankings, you have a pretty poor offense from Pittsburgh, a decent scoring rate of 13 for a pretty bad passing rate of 22, and a pretty bad rushing rate of 28. Notably, though, their tight end rank is pretty good at 6. Defensively, it's about the same story, with an allowed scoring rate of 18, allowed passing rate of 19, allowed passing rate of 29, and allowed rushing rate of 21. For Detroit, you have one of the best offenses, with a scoring rate of 1, a passing rate of 3, a rushing rate of 4. Defensively, though, it's about the opposite, with a scoring rate of 23, an allowed passing rate of 27, and an allowed rushing rate of 13. For your quarterbacks, you have Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff, with Rodgers averaging about 14.4 fantasy points per game, and Goff at about 18.1. Here's their seasonal averages. And looking at their turnovers, you have Rodgers with 7 interceptions this season, and 1 fumble lost due to a sack. And Goff has 5 interceptions this season, with 2 fumbles lost due to sacks. In terms of their rushing share, you have Rodgers with about 5.5% of the carry share, and maybe about 1 or 2% of the rushing yard share, so not much of an impact here. Similar story for Goff, where it might be a little higher at 6% of the rushing carry share, and maybe a little higher here at 3% of the rushing yard share, but once again, very little of the team's rushing total. So for the running backs, I decided I'm going to bring up both Detroit ones here first, and then we'll just look separately at the Pittsburgh one. So you have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Gibbs technically being the starter, with an average of 22.7 fantasy points per game, and Montgomery averaging about 11. Here's both their seasonal averages, and the only fumble between both running backs on Detroit comes from David Montgomery with 1 rushing fumble. And then looking at their share, you of course have Gibbs with the largest percentage at 57% of the rushing carry share and 61.8% of the rushing yard share. That next largest percentage going to David Montgomery at 38.7% of the rushing carry share and 35.7% of the rushing yard share. And of course, the only other person that has any carry information comes from Goff. Looking now at Jaylen Warren, the running back for the Steelers, where he averages 12.8 fantasy points per game. And here's his averages. And no turnovers, so go ahead and pause if you want to look at this in more detail. But looking at his share, you have him at 55.3% of the rushing carry share and 55.6% of the rushing yard share, with the next largest portion going to the backup, Kenneth Gainwell. For your receivers, you have DK Metcalf and Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Metcalf averaging about 12.8 fantasy points per game and Amon-Ra about 19.6. There are their averages for the season, and again with no turnovers, we'll go straight to their charts. Where you have DK Metcalf at 22.3% of the target share and 28.3% of the receiving yard share, giving him the largest portion of anybody else on the team. And same story with Amon-Ra St. Brown at 32% of the target share and 31.5% of the receiving yard share. For your number 2 receivers, you have Calvin Austin and Jameson Williams, with Austin averaging about 5.8 fantasy points per game and Williams averaging about 13.5. Once again, here are their seasonal averages and no turnovers. So go ahead and pause if you want to look at that in more detail. And with their share, you have 11.6% going to Calvin Austin for the target share and 10.8% of the receiving yard share. And that correlates to 10.8% of the receiving yard share for him. For Jameson Williams, you have him at 19.4% of the target share and 25.8% of the receiving yard share, giving him the second largest portion of anybody else on the team. And then moving into your tight ends, you have Darnell Washington, and it looks like instead you'll have Zane Zylstra, but I have no data for him, and that means he has no data period, so I cannot show him yet. So I just brought up Anthony Fursker instead, but I won't talk about him much. Instead, I'll just focus on Darnell Washington, averaging about 6 fantasy points per game, and then here's his averages, and no turnovers this season. So then looking at his share, he has 9.2% of the target share, and about 11% of the receiving yard share. So that's how these two teams stack up. It does seem like it's a pretty clear winner here for Detroit, with a very strong offense versus a pretty weak defense. And even on Pittsburgh's side, if there was any hope on the offensive side, there is a little bit of a weak defense on Detroit, but their rushing rate of 28 against an allowed rushing rate of 13 still wins for Detroit. So they'd have to rely on their passing game of 22 against 27, which there is some hope with this good scoring rate of 13 against his allowed scoring rate of 23. But for the Steelers, that means that it'll become a game of outscoring Detroit, and just with this really good offense, I don't think they have it in them. So I think that the game goes to Detroit. So there you are with that data. I hope you found it informational and useful. And if you did, leave a like and subscribe. And leave a comment on what else you'd want to see in the future. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you for the next game.